The following message concerning the frequencies of your mind can make a huge difference in the quality of your life if you keep an open mind and consider this carefully, what it could mean and do for you in your own life. Now, the concept here that I'm trying to convey is something like a radio station. For example, when you're driving your car, you want to listen to the radio. Your radio is tuning into a certain frequency in order to receive music or perhaps a news report from a certain station that you want to listen to. But if you want to change the station, well, you change the frequency and then a different sort of music comes in, or perhaps a message, depending on what the radio station in question is doing. Now, if we consider the same concept concerning our own minds, we could look at it from this angle, that changing thoughts is like changing frequencies inside your mind. Changing the imaginative pictures you're working with is like changing frequencies inside your mind. So here's the point you want to grasp, is that whenever we think negatively, whenever we're imagining in negative ways, we have the ability to change that. We don't have to be victims of our own negative mental states. Now, interestingly enough, when I was growing up and when I looked around me, even to this day, there's many people who actually subconsciously do feel like they're the victim of their own mental states. They don't take the time to look at it from this angle and realize, if I would change the thoughts in my mind, if I would start imagining differently inside my mind, then I change the state of my mind itself. So you would start to feel better if you're imagining about something great, something positive, something you really desire to have or achieve in your world. So here's the point again. Changing frequencies in inside your mind simply means changing the thoughts that you have there, changing the visions that you've created through your imagination. Now, what will this do for you? Well, in order to give you some idea of this process and how powerful it can be, I have to take you back into the past. The year was 2014. It was around the late October, well, actually close to Halloween, that I was sitting at the lake, or at least I was walking besides the lake. It was in the middle of the night, very dark outside. These things I do remember. And I was walking there on my own, and I felt like really, like I want to do something even greater with my life. I want to reach more people around the world. I had no idea how to do such a thing at the time, but I knew I wanted to, somehow, some way. Now this is an important part, that somehow, some way, because what it led me to at the time was I suddenly got this idea of creating a YouTube channel that will be dedicated to all sorts of mysteries concerning life. However, these mysteries were not of a positive nature at all. We're talking about tragedies, basically people who disappeared mysteriously and unsolved cases out there in the world. So we're talking about criminal stuff basically that happens in the world. Tragedies. So I had that idea. For some reason it clicked with me. I was like, well, I like to write horror fictional stories. So I considered the idea, well, I could create like sort of a YouTube show of some kind where I collect and gather cases that are very obscure and share them with the world. I thought that was pretty interesting at the time. So a few months later, this is what happened. I kept the idea inside my consciousness because I felt already like I want to do this. But I was in the middle of moving to a new home. So I didn't really have the time to work on it straight away. So I just kept it in the back of my mind. So this was the end of October. Now a few months passed. And once it was January, somewhere in the second week of January, I remember waking up in the middle of the night. And I felt like, I gotta do this, man. I gotta create this channel that I've been thinking about for months now. I just gotta do it. I gotta start with whatever I've got. So I went to my computer, sat down in front of a camera, and I recorded the very first video at the time. It was about an unsolved murder, or at least no, it wasn't actually that. My bad. Time flies, man. It's almost 5 years ago by now anyway. It was about somebody that died at a hotel, but it was like so mysterious. They didn't understand it, like, was it really somebody taking their own life or was it murder? Because the circumstances were so bizarre and surreal that none of it actually made any sense to most people out there, including myself. And I found that very interesting and fascinating in a way. It was kind of creepy. See, that was where the idea was born that I called the channel Creepy News at the time. Now, if you try to look for it, it doesn't exist anymore because I deleted it back in April of this year. Now, I did that old channel for a couple of years, until again, April 2019. But I realized very quickly that dedicating my entire life to such a cause of talking about the dark parts of life is definitely not worthy of my time. Like, it could be interesting for a little while, but after a while, even I would have to admit this is not something I could dedicate all of my life to, and that's how extreme I am, in a way. I want to dedicate my time to something that I know I could enjoy for the rest of my life. I want to have my purpose very clear. Now, what I did learn from this channel that I first built was that I changed frequencies in my mind. I basically unconsciously still to a certain extent focused my mind on a vision of this channel, and ideas started to float into my mind. I started to attract ideas. Now ultimately that channel grew to over 50,000 subscribers. So some people might be shocked that I deleted it. Even sometimes I am shocked about it, but I try not to think about it. Anyways, that's how it went. You see, most people can have an idea, but they just let it sort of float out of their minds again. So if you have an idea like I had at the end of 2014, you want to always keep that idea alive inside of your own consciousness, even if you can't act on it right away. You want to keep it there, so over time you'll notice that ideas and pretty much the compulsion will come for you to act on that idea and make it happen. That is what most people don't do. But basically I shifted frequencies. Again, remember what I said. I only felt that I wanted to reach the world somehow, some way. So at the time I didn't necessarily care that this was at the time also pretty morbid by nature, the channel that I was creating. I just wanted to reach the world. I had a dream of reaching 10,000 subscribers at the time. I've never done it before in my life. It seemed so awesome. Well, I finally managed to reach that in a year with that channel back then. And it was really awesome, I'm not gonna lie. It felt really great. It's awesome when you can see your own dreams move into reality. Okay, so as I explained, I knew that this couldn't be something I was gonna do for the rest of my life. So I always knew I was studying metaphysics. I didn't really tell a lot of people about it, but at the end of 2018, or at least the starting of 2019, January of this year as this is being uploaded, I remembered making a few vlogs for that channel, but you know, it wasn't the right audience. There were a few people, of course, that enjoyed what I was sharing, but most of the people only wanted to see the creepy stuff, the dark stuff of life. So it wasn't the right target audience for me to keep sharing this information with. That's why I decided to close down the channel, because I knew I wanted to go in this direction. I want to build in this direction. I want to create something awesome with this now in my life. And I want to build the right audience for it, so I'll just start all over again. And again, at that time, I didn't have the ideas I have now concerning the videos I make. You see, those video presentations that I make, I didn't make those at the start of this year. It was after I removed my old channel. I could change frequencies more effectively again. It sort of created space inside my consciousness to focus fully on an inspirational channel, and that is also exactly when the idea started to flow. That's kind of interesting, because before that I was thinking about building an inspirational channel, but I didn't really have the basis clear in my mind, like what sort of videos and how would they look, and how exactly is this going to work. You know, I didn't have that clear because I was still distracted by my old channel in a way, and what people wanted from me on there. But as I removed that from my life, I could fully focus on building an inspirational channel, which I ultimately ended up calling Mr. Inspirational, that you're watching right now. And then the idea started to float. You see, I changed frequencies inside my mind again, because I became clear on where I wanted to go. And as I did that, new ideas, even to this day, start adding to this channel for me mentally and emotionally, where I get more and more ideas on what I still could and want to do with it, where I can go with it, what I want to talk about. It just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing, because now I got the picture clear in my mind. Now this is something you want to grasp for yourself, is that you might have a job or perhaps college or whatever, some activities that are distracting you to a certain extent, so it's more difficult at first, perhaps, to change frequencies inside your mind. Because once you do that, you'll have the same experience as me. The ideas start to change inside your consciousness. You become compelled and inspired to act differently, and as you do all of that, you see the results change into a different direction. I have literal proof of this in my own world, based on what I've done so far in my life. It's the same when I was making music. I'll be sharing a new track maybe tomorrow or at least this week, because I like to randomly share some music that I made so people know what I do with my imagination, because back then I would actually share inspirational messages through the music I created. But again, I wasn't yet making videos, I didn't think of that yet. You see, this is what happens for you as well, because back then with music I would be focused again mentally and emotionally on being a musician, on being a music producer. So I flipped my mind onto that frequency and the ideas for expression came to me. With you it's the same. So if there's distractions in your life, just make time for it somehow, some way in your own life to consider this deeply, that if you want something better for yourself, you're going to have to change the frequencies inside your mind. And again, remember what we said at the beginning of the video. You simply learn to change your thoughts, and you learn to change the imaginative pictures you're working with inside your mind. And as you change them around and then zoom in on the ones you enjoy the most, with imagination zoom in on the future, the results that you really want for yourself. If you then focus on that using your willpower, your ability to focus, your ability to have attention, to put attention on that imaginary vision, that will then cause your mind to track the ideas that you need in order to give it expression over a certain period of time. Again, I have absolute evidence of this in my own life. Even as a writer, I could keep going on and on about what I've done in my past, but it doesn't really matter. I just know this works. Every time I have been shifting frequencies inside my mind, I see the results change accordingly to what I first built inside my imagination. I am possessed by my own dreams. If you become possessed by your own dreams, you'll definitely change the frequencies inside your mind, causing you to think differently, to get different ideas, to feel differently, and to act differently. And as you act differently, the results will change. Anyways, with this being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.